Welcome to tonight's webinar series entitled Unlock the 4Cs with Microsoft Teams. So for tonight, we're going to focus on Teams, share some tips and best practices with Teams, and also talk about how we can use the features in Teams to foster the 4Cs of the 21st century skills. So just to make sure that everyone is webinar ready, we want to make sure you're on mute. And if you heard the music earlier, or if you can hear me talking, then your sound settings are just fine. And when we get to that point in the webinar where we are going to be sharing our best practices, go ahead and unmute to speak. So again, thank you guys for joining tonight. My name is Michelle Singh, and I am the Miami area Microsoft Learning Consultant. And I am here with, and I think Nicole just joined us. Nicole is the Microsoft Learning Consultant in the Tampa area. So the two of us cover the state of Florida with Microsoft support. So we're happy to have you on the webinar today, and we are going to be talking about the three major topics: the modern classroom, the 21st century skills, and then the Microsoft application that we're focusing on is Teams. So if you haven't already done so, I would recommend that you download the Teams app on your mobile device, because the same access you have on your computer, you're going to have it on your mobile device as well. And just so you know, we do have a parking lot channel in the Teams group that you're part of. And when I added you to this Teams group, you're going to be part of this Teams for the remainder of the year. Every month, we're going to be doing a different topic, and you'll have access to the Teams to either view the recording, participate, post questions, and you do post your questions in the parking lot. So I like to start with Microsoft's mission because it ties in very seamlessly to what we're doing with our students and the teachers that we support. We are trying to empower them, and we're trying to empower them to achieve more. So when we use the tools, it's not just about using the technology, but it's how to use the technology to foster those skills that the students are going to need in the future. And that's what this webinar series is focused on. How do we use the tools effectively? How do we practice using them in a way that exposes the students to the 21st century skills, particularly those 4Cs that you see here on your screen? How do we increase their opportunities to use critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication in their learning environment? And when we do that, we're creating a modern classroom and work environment for the students and the teachers that we support. And that's going to be part of the focus here, is really breaking down the tools and seeing how we can use it to foster those skills. So a little FYI here, the information that you're seeing that comes that about 21st century skills, it does come from a Microsoft Educator Community course. This course can be found on the Educator Community. It's called the 21st Century Learning Design. And this course breaks down each 21st century skill. It provides rubrics and big ideas and classroom examples in written form and in video form for you to really see what does each of those skills look like. Okay, and that's what we're going to take a look at right now, those big ideas and those rubrics for the 4Cs that we're going to focus on in the examples that we're going to see later on in the presentation. So taking a look at the big ideas, if you notice that each of the 4Cs has 2 bullet points, 2 questions that we can ask ourselves whenever we're implementing technology and we're integrating it with our learning activities. Are we providing these opportunities for students to do what these questions are asking when we're using the technology tools? And we're going to come back to these questions individually when we look at some of the learning activities a little further in the presentation. In terms of the rubrics are fantastic, and they allow us to really focus on those key points that help us to see if we are really providing these opportunities for students the right way. So in terms of creativity, are they constructing knowledge? Are they applying that knowledge to interdisciplinary uh, learning opportunities? When it comes to critical thinking, are they problem solving? Are these real world problems that they are part of? And are they using innovation? When it comes to collaboration, it's not just, hey, turn and talk, but the students are actually working together. They have shared responsibilities. They're making substantive decisions, and they have the chance to do interdependent work. And the last 4C here is communication. So it's not just the students presenting a project. Well, their communication is extended. Are they supporting it with evidence? Are they communicating for a particular audience? So considering those major points for each of the 4Cs, they're going to help us create learning activities for students that puts them right in the place of the modern classroom that we all hope that we are creating for the students. And the tools that we're going to use to help facilitate that is what's going to be the cherry on top. So we're looking at Microsoft Teams today, and the reason I chose Teams as the first webinar topic is because, well, Teams is pretty hot. So it is the fastest growing app in Microsoft history. And you can see on your screen here some of the statistics that are currently rising and rising. It is one of those tools that just gets better and better every day with new features, new artificial intelligence, new updates, and teachers are on fire for Teams. Teams is accessible anywhere on your desktop, on your tablet, on your mobile device, whether you have a Mac or Android or iPhone. It is pretty much accessible wherever you can think of. And most of all, Teams is designed for education. You have the opportunity to create collaborative classrooms with Teams. It provides you a medium to connect with each other in professional learning communities. You can have professional development groups within Teams. As an administrator or as a department chair or as a teacher who wants to streamline communication with other teachers, you can use Teams for that. And it allows you to really come together and be in one place where you have everything that you need. So Teams is ultimately the hub. In Teams, you can chat. You have files that you can share. You can take notes together, individually or together. You can have meetings, much like the one that we're doing right now. You have tasks that you can complete. You can have videos that are recorded through the meetings, and then you can incorporate those apps that you use that are not Microsoft, like, for example, maybe Nearpod or Wakelet. You can integrate all of those apps within the team, so you have a hub, one single place where you have everything that you need. And so Teams creates all these wonderful possibilities for teachers to be able to do what you see on your screen. They can lesson plan individually together. They can manage a project. They can have professional learning communities. If you're a department chair, you can be a part of a department or create a content area department teams. You can even hold online meetings with parents. I know open house is happening right now throughout the different school districts. You could stream your open house for the parents who can't make it. You can have parent conference meetings in Teams. It can be recorded. You have a transcript. The possibilities are endless. And for the students, they can collaborate together. They can create groups to work on projects. They can even build their portfolio, something that they can take with them, not just in this grade, but in the other grades that they progress through. And they have the opportunity to be part of a true blended learning environment. And in addition to, just the teacher and student way of using Teams, if you're a teacher and you are, let's say, a coach or a club sponsor, you can, or, you have another leadership position in the school, you can create teams for school groups and to manage different programs and professional development, and have virtual field trips and guest speakers that are part of teams that you open up for those that are in your school environment. This next slide I'm sharing with you, it's a little screenshot from a tweet that I saw from Jerry Gillespie. And I really like this tweet because she shows you how teams can be used in just about everything that you can think of, from the data center to a workflow. So she's giving you all of these different ways that teams can be used, even for office hours. And I really like the specificity here in this tweet. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to take a look at just the way that Teams is being used nationwide or even globally. All right, so think about those examples that you saw and some of the ones that we went over, because when we get to that point in the webinar, I really want you to talk about how you have used Teams or how you envision using Teams with some of the things that we've talked about tonight. So one of my favorite features in Teams is the meetings that you can have. So you can do meetings or live events. What we're doing right now is a Teams meeting. And for a meeting like this, you can have up to 250 participants in a meeting. And you can see that in this meeting, I'm doing several things. So I'm sharing my screen. You're hearing me talk. The video, you can also see the people who are part of the meeting with the little thumbnails. If I wanted to turn on subtitles, I could turn on subtitles. And I am also recording this session. So there's several things that are happening in the meeting. So you have a meeting going on and everything you need is in the meeting. There's also live events. Live events are for, think of it more like if you're having a guest speaker or kind of a conference style presentation. It allows the guests to sign on via a link. They click the link, they're in the live event. There are no thumbnails of different people that are part of it because it can support up to 10,000 participants, but everybody will have access to the chat where they can post questions and comments, and the chat is moderated. So the person who is speaking is the main person that you see on the screen, and then someone else is moderating. A real life example of this live meeting that's about to happen in Miami-Dade County is with their conservation conversations with Ron McGill. So Ron McGill is working with Miami-Dade County to do these guest speaker virtual field trip opportunities for the teachers. And we're using the Teams live events to connect the teachers to Ron McGill. So he will be using Teams for these live events, and the teachers in Dade County will be able to join and ask questions with their classroom with the live events in Teams. And none of that would be possible without AI. And you can see that, again, it's very, Teams is very robust with what it offers us. So there's message translation. There is the transcription option and subtitles. And then one of my favorite things too is the blur option. You have the option to blur your background. So if you were actually seeing me on the screen instead of my presentation, I could blur my background so the focus would only be on me. You wouldn't see my dogs in the background or my books in the background. It would only be me. So that keeps the focus on the person presenting, and it eliminates distraction. All right, so now we're going to get to a quick overview of Teams. So if you're not using it or you've seen it, we're going to just talk about the layout of Teams. So what does it look like? So when you logged into our Teams today, this is what you saw. And I'm going to talk about just the terminology of what you've seen. So on the left-hand side, we call that the me space. The me space is every team that you're part of. You're going to see it on the left-hand side. The left-hand side has the left rail, which lists your teams and the channels of your teams. And then the left-hand side also has your app bar. So you have your activities. That's where you can go if you're getting notifications if someone has sent a message to a team. You have your chat. This is where if someone is having a one-on-one conversation with you, you'll have it in the chat. That Teams button right there, that's what you'll click on to see the other teams that you're in if you want to switch between teams. And if you have scheduled meetings, when you click that option there, it actually will show you what's on your calendar and what meetings are that you have scheduled. You have your files section, your assignments section. If the teacher creates a class team, she'll have that assignments option there. And then you have more, App Store, and the feedback. So that, what I just talked about, is the me space. So it's what you see, what's pertinent to you. Now, on the right-hand side, what's outlined here is the canvas. So this is where you're going to see all the content for the team that you're currently clicked on. And we also have what's called the we space, because this is where the collaboration happens. When you're looking at the canvas and you see what's called the tabs, that's where the collaboration happens. In the conversations, the students are and the teachers are having these conversations together. In files, they're sharing content. The class notebook, they're accessing a class notebook created by the teacher. The assignments, the teacher and the students are engaging in the assignment. And then any other tabs that you see is what you create for everyone to have access to and the ability to collaborate on it. So if you were to put a PowerPoint as a tab here, everyone in that group would have editing rights to that PowerPoint to work on it together. So that's why that's called the we space. Okay, so we have your team. So we have, again, the me space and the we space, and then you have your canvas. So one thing I want to point out while we're looking at this is if you look up to the top right, where you see the little icon, the little circle with the initials, you click that to get to your settings. That's going to be important to know because that's where you would go to change certain things. Another great feature in the Teams is the search or command bar. We often see it, but we don't pay attention to it, but it's actually very powerful. I can search a keyword there and the Teams will search the conversations and the posts. And if I am looking for something in particular, whether it was something that was posted by a student that was, let's say, a link or a Word document and it has those words in it, it'll show up in the search bar. It's very intuitive. So that's the command box. So what we're going to talk about next are just some quick tips that we've gathered from others related to just some important things that we just need to really understand about Teams. So we have the notifications icon, and that was on the me space. Whenever you see that little red icon, that tells you that someone is trying to notify you in Teams. It could be that someone has pinged you specifically or a group that you're in. So you may have a chat, you may have something that was shared with you, but that just tells you that, hey, something is happening in my Teams. Let me check it out. The next thing is the at mentions. This is actually very helpful to call out certain groups or certain people. If you're part of a team, for example, and you want to post, let's say you have a form that you want your students to respond to, you use the at mention to at the class or the name of the team so that they get that notification letting them know that they have to respond. So it's much like Twitter or social media where you're adding someone and it just it notifies them that they're being called out. And then the bold option is just anything that's bolded. That means that there are new updates to that Teams, that channel, whatever you see there. Okay, so and speaking of channels, channels are very, very important in Teams. Channels help the teachers organize, and it's a great way to keep your course in order. You can organize your channels by your subjects or by your topics or by your units. When you have your channels, they come ready-made with their own conversations, with their own files. And if you have your class notebook set up, it comes ready-made with your own note section that links to the collaboration space. And you have the opportunity to add tabs as well. So if I wanted to add a tab for OneNote, or a tab for Forms, or a tab for Wakelet, or a tab for Buncee, or anything like that, I can do that. This link here is just quick information on what you can do with the channels in Teams. Okay. This feature here is a must know, because when you're part of many teams, which once you start using it in your district, if you haven't already done so, you're going to see that people are going to create teams for just about everything. Once you're part of teams, many teams, you're going to go see content and go through content a lot. And there are things that are helpful that you're going to want to save. And that's what you're looking at here, is that save message feature is like your bookmarks. When you can save a conversation, you can save something in a chat. If someone posts a link to something that you would find helpful later, you can save it. And when you click the ellipses and click the save this message option, you click on your name, your icon in the top right of your Teams, and when it drops down, you click saved, and every single thing that you have hit save this message for is going to populate, so you can go back and look at what you've saved. It's a quick reference for you. So it's a feature that I use a lot, because all the teams that I'm a part of, everyone in there is always sharing wonderful information that I may not need right now, but it's something that I may want to go back to later. And here we have the switching of the tenants. With your switching of your tenants, you might have to do this if your district does not allow guests in their team. So when you join this team, you are part of the Microsoft US EDU tenant, but your district has its own tenant. So you might have to switch between tenants just to be part of different teams. So here we have a quick video, actually, that's going to just show you really quick what that looks like. So that quick video was by Nicole. Nicole, thank you for that video. But it's important to know how to locate your little caret here to switch your tenants, because you might get stuck and you're looking for a team that's in your district, but you're in a different tenant. All right, now we're at the point where we're going to talk about some quick tips and tricks. This comes from the teachers themselves, and this is only focused on classroom teams. So when you create a team, you create a class teams, not a PLC or a staff. This is one with a class teams. The difference is when you create a class teams, it comes with a class notebook, and it also comes with the assignments tab for you to create assignments for your students. And it does come with what you're seeing here on your screen, a class materials folder. The class materials folder under the files has read-only permission. So this is like a safe place for teachers. They can put all their files in there, whether it's a Word document, a PowerPoint, an Excel file, whatever it is, anything that they want the students to not edit would go into that read-only class materials folder. Now, that class materials folder is only going to be in the general channel. If you create additional channels, it's not going to have a class materials folder. But you can still link things from the class materials folder if you're posting in the other channels. So we're going to take a look at this video here, because this is a great way for us to see how we're able to leverage the class materials to post read-only in the other tabs. Okay, so that's very helpful because we don't want our students editing everything we share with them. And that just gives us a way to share within the different channels materials that are read only for students, things that we just want them to review, maybe even print, things that we just don't want them editing or collaborating on in that sense. So that's just a tip about the class materials folder. Our next tip is about creating assignments. Now, assignments are constantly changing. Like, for example, today there was a new update for assignments where teachers can now set due dates for assignments. So it's constantly changing, and we are seeing one recommendation here where it's very, very helpful to have a blank titled Word document, PowerPoint presentation, or OneNote page for students attached as a resource to the assignment, because it prevents them from having to create their own. And when you attach it as a resource and push the assignment out to students in that class, they will get their own copy of that resource or of that file. So I have a quick video here from one of the Microsoft videos that you can see how to do it. All right, so super easy. It just prevents a lot of glitches that may occur if the students didn't have the Word or PowerPoint or OneNote page and they had to find it for themselves. So it's less stress to do it this way. The next tip is a great suggestion. It's about importing previously created class notebooks when you create your team. So if you taught English 1 last year and you're teaching English 1 again this year, and you had a class notebook last year with all your content for the whole year, you can create a team and import the content from that existing notebook. What is going to happen is the class notebook that you're importing will just copy the content that you select from the old notebook into the notebook in Teams. If you had students that were attached to the previous notebook, they are not going to be part of the team or part of the notebook in the team. It is only making a copy of the content that you select to be copied into the new notebook. So this is really, really helpful because it saves a lot of time. It saves you a lot of time from moving and copying all these different sections and section groups from a whole year of working in a OneNote to a new year of a OneNote. And another suggestion that I find to be very, very, very helpful here is when the students are in the different channels, they have um, a notes tab. So you can see here on the slide, there's a notes tab. When they click on this note tab in that channel, this is what automatically pops up. Just a page. The page by default is just a blank page, but it's helpful for the students to have some kind of direction as to how to navigate in that page. So it's helpful for them to see, hey, I need to click this little purple caret here so that it expands in case there are additional pages that I need to review. Or if I'm going to be taking notes here, I need to set the notes up a certain way. Always know that whenever you're in a channel and you have the notes page, the notes tab, it creates notes in the collaboration space. So everybody who is in that channel, who's a part of that team, has the ability to edit because it's in the collaboration space. So having some kind of a way to kind of direct the students where to go in the collaboration space would be helpful. Finally, we have two more suggestions here to share with the channel settings and the general settings. Your general settings is like your home. Think of it as the place where you would post your important announcements, you know, any guidelines or things like that. So you can change the settings just in the general tab to where only owners can post messages. And this keeps your general channel fairly clean, where, you know, kids are not responding or creating conversation posts or anything like that. It is just the things that you, the owner or the teacher, want the students to see. Within each channel, the students are able to post. Member permissions is also something that you can enable and disable. If you take a look at these last two here, give members the option to delete their messages, give members the option to edit their messages. Here, they're by default, they're checked off, but you have the option to uncheck them if you don't want students deleting messages and if you don't want students editing messages. So the teachers have suggested to turn these options off to prevent students from making any changes to messages that are posted. I would recommend that, because if you post a message or a conversation that has important information and attachments and the students can edit it, guess what? They're going to edit what you have just posted on your team. Okay, so we're here at the point where we're looking at real life classroom examples from real life teachers. So as we're looking at them, let's take a look, you know, let's think about the 4 C's and those big ideas that we talked about earlier, and let's see how they apply to the different examples. So here in this one, this is a group PowerPoint that was shared as a tab in one of the channels for a team, because the teacher wanted the whole class to work on this collaborative PowerPoint. In order to do that successfully, there had to be planning that went into the PowerPoint, and I'm going to show it to you here so you can see the first couple of slides. So here are the directions for that PowerPoint, what the students have to do in their small groups, and here are the assignments for each slide. So as a whole class, they are creating this project. Every small group is responsible for a slide, but every individual in each small group is responsible for a task. So in this presentation, this collaborative project is possible within Teams because it's posted as a tab where everybody in that channel has access to it. They can access it anywhere they are, on their mobile device or on their computer. So in this task, it definitely fulfills the requirements for collaboration because they have a shared responsibility. They have a class project that they are creating together to display or to discuss or to showcase at a science fair. And so as a class, this is their project. That's their responsibility. They're making those substantive decisions together in their small groups because they're deciding what they want to put on the slide that is assigned to them. But they also are doing interdependent work because their individual work is necessary for the whole group to be successful. So when we look at the big ideas of collaboration, a project like that done using the technology of Microsoft Teams meets the requirements for collaboration. In this example, it is a book discussion by Ms. Freeman, and this is a 7th grade class reading The Giver. So she posed a question to the students, and they are having a conversation on Teams with support from the text in their responses. And then they are also responding to each other, providing constructive feedback. Teams give the teachers the opportunities to have this discussion, have this level of discussion with each other. And again, they can respond wherever they are. It doesn't have to be done in class only. So in terms of communication, the students are communicating their ideas. They are supporting their communication, and they're designing their communication for the audience of their peers, because their peers are the ones giving them feedback. So we're using the tool, Microsoft Teams, to foster the communication skill. Now, this is a fun project. This is actually kids in first grade. This is a teacher that Nicole shared. Mr. Merrill, his Twitter handle is here at Mr. Merrill's class. His first grade students were working on US symbols research project. So here he used Teams with first graders working on Teams, and you can see them here. He shared out resources with them on Teams. They chose from their preferred topic from about 5 to 8 symbols, and then they were creating something with the information that they gathered. Now, they are doing it in class, but he also opened the door for kids to be able to work from home. And if they had questions, Microsoft Teams provides that platform for them to ask him questions, even during, the off hours, or even when they were not present in school. So kids are constructing and applying knowledge here from the resources he's given them, which he's able to do through Teams. And the knowledge is interdisciplinary. They are not just reading, and they are also researching, and they're writing, and they're drawing, and they're creating. So it is across the curriculum with what the kids are doing with this project. And finally, this is one of my favorite things to do with OneNote, or to even see in OneNote. This is a Microsoft OneNote breakout activity. And a breakout activity requires students to really utilize those critical thinking skills to solve problems, to be able to move on to the next step. So if you've never done a breakout, I'm going to show you right here. The breakout activities have codes that the students need to crack after they complete a particular challenge. And once they crack the code, I'm going to cheat here. Once they crack the code, they're able to go into the other sections. If you notice here, it says the section is password protected. But if I crack the code with my group and I figure out what the hint is, I crack the code, and now this whole entire section opens up for me to view the resources, participate in the activities, read, review, and then here's another hint for me to move on to the next one. And then once I figure it out with my group after reviewing the content, I put in the code, and it opens up the next one, and it opens up the next one until you get to the very end. And for this particular activity, it had a call to action that was part of the closing that the students had to do for this project. So this is possible in Teams, where the teacher creates the OneNote, and using the tab feature, the website feature in a tab, she puts the OneNote link. It's a view only OneNote link. And when the OneNote opens up in the web, the students navigate through it and enter the code and work through the challenge. And it's a very, very interactive activity. And we will actually get more into OneNote when we do our webinar for next month, because the topic will be about OneNote. So you can see here, the students are really participating in real world activities because they're learning about real people in that particular activity. And they are problem solving, and because their last task is a call to action. So we've talked about 4 real examples from the classroom, and how they help to foster the 4 C's. So I want to give you guys now the opportunity to share with the group what you are doing with Teams, and how do you see yourself using Teams if you haven't done so already. So if you want to unmute right now, and share a little bit, and you can say your name and where you're from. I would love to hear some real examples from you. Don't forget to unmute.
Can I go first?
Sure, Lisa.
Me?
Hey,
Me to go first.
yeah, go ahead, Lisa. Thank you for joining us.
Well, in our district, we're just starting to use Teams with the Verizon Innovation Schools. So it's the middle schools. We have 5 middle schools that have one-to-one iPads, teacher and students. So right now, the who's using them is the technology coaches. So they can
Okay.
so they can work together with each other and communicate with each other.
Oh,
So,
okay. So you have the coaches from each school working
right,
teams together.
right.
Okay.
They're on teams, the 5 coaches, and
Mm.
with the Verizon team.
Okay, so that's kind of like a professional, like a PLC almost, where they're
Yep.
sharing, sharing ideas since they're kind of.
Right. Everything goes through there right now. So,
Okay. All
um,
right. I like that. So that one is an example of, the teachers working together, probably to even
yeah,
manage
the
a
coaches
project.
share all their ideas and everything. Everything goes through there for the 5 coaches.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Lisa.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else want to share how you've used Teams or even how you can see yourself using Teams in the future?
Your
Okay,
turn,
Michelle, you want me to
Ophelia.
go? I am. You hear me? Do you
Yes,
guys
but you're
hear
far
me?
away.
Oh, you
I
hear me
can
now better?
I hear you now better. Yes. So we have
Okay.
Ophelia here.
Okay, so Crystal River started using Teams and I think the main reason was that they through accreditation, I think their one of their low scoring was professional development and just documentation to back that up. So they started using Teams with the different channels and do the PLCs there. They upload a work folder. They upload their data, student data, and how they're improving. They pick a standard and provide that documentation on how they're improving that standard. So everything is uploaded there. So it's that central hub. We also use it for our professional development. For example, I last year I did a spring PLC, a professional development kind of it was a 2 week process. Each department chose a tool. So I provided either a presentation tool, I believe it was the three different tools, and they chose which one they would come to. And then it was for 2 weeks. So all of that was put in the OneNote in Teams. So they have that to refer back through. So basically, a lot of information going out there. We also have a channel for all the trainings and PowerPoint for the opening of school that we need to do there also. So, and I'm a part of the different teams, for example, media specialist teams, the technology team. So all of that is also how we use that.
Okay, very neat. Lots of examples there. So from being used for data chats to opening of school procedures and content that teachers will need. And I'm sure it saves a lot of photocopies too when we're talking
Uh,
about opening of school.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the PowerPoints are there. They don't have to email them to the teachers. They're there. It's a, one-stop shop basically.
And then the teachers have access to those things for the next year. And for any resources that you share in those professional development sessions, they have access to them in the teams to refer to them whenever they need it. So those
Ex-
are some great ways that you guys are using Teams in Citrus County.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. All right, so do we have anyone else that wants to share? Who wants to share before we conclude tonight? Well, thank you, Ophelia and Lisa, for sharing your team stories with us. So I want to end with a few resources for you to go a little bit deeper into Teams if you'd like. Right in the left rail, you're going to see the help button. And when you click that help button, you're able to access how-to topics. You're able to get suggestions and anything else you'll need to get started with Teams or continue with Teams. So that's just right in the Teams app. You have that help button. You also have this Wakelet here. It's a Wakelet collection that was created by Mike Tolson, who is a Microsoft guru, and he has curated all of these resources from Microsoft Teams in the Wakelet. So just so you know, I'm going to be posting this presentation in the channel for the September webinar so that you have access to view it if you need it. And I'll also be posting a recording of this webinar. There's also here the Microsoft Teams University, and as an educator, as students, as researchers, you can click on whichever option you want to get more content about Teams. There's also the Microsoft Educator community, and we love the MEC. The MEC gives us badges, it gives us points, and we are able to track our professional growth, our professional learning growth on the MEC. So as you're searching for courses in the MEC, under training, you click courses, you can filter your search by product and select Microsoft Teams. And then every course that's available for Microsoft Teams will populate for you to engage in those courses. So that's on the MEC. And here's one that I recommend to start with. It's an hour course. It's entitled Transform Learning with Teams. And here's the course right here. You can view it and participate in it. And those are all the resources that I have. So let me open it up for questions. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. If not, we're going to move right along. For your participation in tonight's webinar, you can redeem this code in your Microsoft Educator community profile. So just click on your profile, click redeem code, and enter the code that you see right down here, MSBYAGSM20, and you can earn points for participating in this session today. And again, I'll post that in the channel, so you have access to it. And we have our next webinar coming up in October. So we have it's going to be toward the end of October, and I am trying to schedule it on a Wednesday. So be on the lookout in the Teams for the date for the next activity, the next webinar. So again, thank you guys for joining tonight. We are finishing 10 minutes before time. And we hope to see you during the next webinar.